Everyone. Thank you very much, Eric, for the introduction. And I'm happy that all of you are able to join us uh, this morning, even though it's a weekend. And I know that for teachers, weekend is supposed to be the time for us to recover from the week-long stresses that we have had from Monday to Friday. And I know that most of you are busy now in preparing for the new school year. So, based on the registration sheet, I saw that there are supposed to be more than 600 participants in this call. The others may be joining in a while, or some participants may be coming in and out of the meeting. And again, thank you for attending today's Cerebro Showcase, which will focus on unveiling the Department of Education's new Matatag curriculum. And for those of you who are attending Cerebro's event for the first time today, you may have already heard about what Cerebro is and the things that we do from my colleague Jimel's short presentation earlier. And just to give you a background about the event, Cerebro conducts a series of professional development programs throughout the year, particularly the Cerebro Roadshows, wherein we partner with different private school organizations from the different regions of the Philippines from January to June to discuss topics on teaching strategies, classroom management, and the like. And from July to December, wherein that's where we are right now, we are conducting what we call the Cerebro Showcase, wherein we feature the various innovations that Cerebro is working on and relating it to the developments happening in the Philippine education system, which for today's session, it's about Cerebro and the Matatag curriculum. Before we begin with a discussion, I would like to share more details about myself. So again, I'm Justin Itugot, and some of you may already know me as the founder and CEO of Cerebro. But prior to being in Cerebro, I have been a classroom teacher and an administrator for more than 10 years, particularly handling courses in professional education, humanities, social sciences, and religion in different schools and universities within Metro Manila and Cavite province. But a big portion of my teaching career was at the University of Perpetual Help System Delta. I've been part of the university's College of Education, and I also served as the university's focal person for e-learning for one of their campuses. And I am an alumnus of the University of Santo Tomas College of Education, and I took up graduate studies in education at De La Salle University das Marinas, and graduate studies also in business administration from AMA University. At present, I'm also part of UST's Innovation Center called the Tomasino Center, where I am providing mentorship to Tomasian students, faculty members, and even alumni who would like to spin off their creative ideas and technological innovations into actual profitable business ventures. Because most of the time, the problem is that students do a lot of research in schools and they have very good research papers, they have very good thesis. But once they graduate, all their creative ideas get shelved in the library and does not actually turn into reality. And at the Innovation Center, that is my role to assist them in spinning off their ideas into actual businesses. So even if I am now more on the support side of education, I haven't actually left the education industry. And Cerebro is an educational technology company. And at the same time, we are registered as an educational publishing company since we produce teaching and learning resources such as ready-made lessons, quizzes, test banks, ebooks, and even printed textbooks to be used by our partner institutions. And for the past 2 years, there is no other topic being discussed in the publishing industry aside from this new curriculum being introduced by the Department of Education. As early as 2022, publishers like us at Cerebro were already asked by DepEd to prepare for the new curriculum that will be launched in line with the agenda of the new administration. And it's not uncommon for the government to have a new agenda for every new administration, di ba? And while the general public may have been surprised when the Matatag curriculum was first announced, it was not actually surprising for publishers like us, since we actually expect that these curriculum revisions regularly happen from time to time. And it's just a matter of identifying when the next curriculum revision will be. And fortunately, Cerebro was among the publishers that got a first glance of the Matatag curriculum even before it was launched for pilot testing in school year 2022 to 2023. So, just a disclaimer before we continue with our session, I will be speaking on the point of view of an educator, an educational technologist, and an instructional designer, and not as a curriculum developer of the Matatag curriculum. Because just to clarify, I am not from the Department of Education, and we were not involved in the crafting of this new curriculum. For things that we'll discuss about those nitty-gritty details, that is why we have the division training of trainers or the school-based training of teachers on the Matatag curriculum, wherein they actually break down the competencies for each subject for teachers to better understand what the new curriculum is all about. So our role here today is to help everyone understand what the new curriculum is all about, and uh, why is there a need to change the curriculum, and what are the expectations of DepEd from teachers in the way that they will be delivering the lessons from the new curriculum to their students. So in today's session, we will try to understand DepEd's Matatag curriculum in contrast with our previous curricula that were implemented in the Philippines in the past administrations or in the past decades. We will also acknowledge the importance of continuously revising the curriculum with the goal of improving our educational programs and meeting our expected outcomes. And we will also look into available resources that will help teachers make teaching the new curriculum easier, despite this curriculum being new and a lot of preparation is expected on the part of the teachers. Uh, okay. So as part of DepEd's advocacy on promoting this new curriculum, they created a video that lays out the goals of the Matatag curriculum and the Philippine education agenda for the next few years. So let us first watch this video for us to get a good understanding of what the Matatag curriculum is. Hold on.
Lahat tayo nagsisikap.
Lahat tayo nagsisipag.
Lahat tayo nais tumalino't gumaling.
Lahat tayo gustong makatulong sa pamilya at sa bayan.
Lahat tayo maaasahan.
Lahat tayo gagawa.
Lahat tayo tutulong.
Lahat tayo didiskarte at dilikha para sa ating kinabukasan.
Dahil lahat tayo ay may pangarap, may gustong abutin, may nais marating.
At kahit pa humarap sa libu-libong hamon ng buhay,
Ang tatag ng lahing Pilipino,
Mangingibabaw.
susulong.
Tayo ay magiging matatag.
Matatag na kurikulum,
Matatag na paaralan at agarang serbisyo para sa edukasyon.
Matatag na programa sa mag-aaral at kabataan.
matatag na suporta para sa mga guro.
ang ating pangarap,
Maaabot.
Mararating
Basta't tulong-tulong.
magsisipag tayo.
Magsisikap tayo.
para sa isang bansang makabata,
Batang makabansa.
lahat tayo.
Lahat tayo.
Lahat tayo, matatag ang pangarap, matatag ang kinabukasan.
Okay. So, of course, the video still shows the former DepEd Secretary, Vice President Sara Duterte, who was seen as the main figure in the launch of the new Matatag curriculum. And just yesterday, the new DepEd Secretary, former Senator Sani Angara, officially took over the Department of Education. Well, the turnover ceremonies was held last Thursday, but it was yesterday that he officially functioned for his first day. He took over the Department of Education, and I know that this has just raised so many questions from different sectors, coming from teachers, students, and even parents, asking about what will happen with the Matatag curriculum now that there is someone new at DepEd, and whether the curriculum will be changed again since somebody new is at the helm of the Philippine education system. There could be varying answers to all these questions, but if you are going to ask me on this, I think that it will not be easy to just change the curriculum again and implement a new one since there is a new DepEd secretary. As you will be seeing here, the Matatag curriculum is not just something that is being implemented in a whim, out of nothing. It is not something that was just a bright idea of someone at the Department of Education and decided to revamp the entire curriculum in an instant. Rather, the Matatag curriculum is a product of the extensive review of the K-12 curriculum after having the first set of students who graduated from the complete K-12 program from kindergarten to senior high school. And we can remember that during the time of the late former president, Benigno Aquino III, he sought the help of former De La Salle University president, Brother Armin Luistro, to improve the overall quality of education in the Philippines by aligning it with global standards. And that's why Brother Armin Luistro became the Secretary of the Department of Education that time. Primarily because De La Salle University was already known and widely recognized to be following global standards that time. And the addition of 2 years of education in the high school level was seen as something that would greatly benefit students since their years in school will be already aligned with the requirements of foreign countries. Because before, if you decide to work as an OFW in another country, especially in Western countries, they will notice that you lack 2 years in basic education, and they will require you to add 2 more years for education when you arrive in their country before you can work there, diba? And this makes them readily employable right after graduating, since by the time of their senior high school graduation, they will already be 18 years old. Kasi dati, if you graduate from high school without senior high school pa, no, in the old curriculum, you will graduate around 16 years old. And if you do not have enough funds to continue with your college education, you cannot work also because you're still a minor. So the senior high school curriculum addressed those problems. So we can see that the K-12 program was a fairly good program, and it was also a very idealistic program because it prepares students for the world of work. However, it was not without blemish, no? Since there have been numerous feedback, again, coming from different sectors, teachers, students, and even parents, who raised different concerns about the curriculum, highlighting various rooms for improvement in order to better achieve its expected outcomes. On another note, the whole world suddenly experienced almost 2 years of shutdown during the COVID-19 pandemic, di ba? Which forced schools to adopt alternative delivery modes, whether through online learning, modular learning, or other methods, which obviously nobody has been prepared for. Especially here in the Philippines, that the education sector here is seen as one of the most traditional sectors in the country. Compared with our neighboring countries, Philippine schools are still largely traditional, where our main mode of teaching and learning is through face-to-face classes. And since face-to-face classes were prohibited during the pandemic, teachers found it difficult to deliver their classes properly. And as an effect, students also found it difficult to cope with the changes in the educational setting. And what's the result? There is an undeniable learning loss on the part of the students where they were not able to learn about specific and important competencies that are required for them to learn at their age. Hence, there is a need to implement rapid measures for learning recovery so students can cope with what they have not learned during the pandemic. And finally, the Matatag curriculum is an attempt to address the alarmingly low scores that Filipinos are getting in standardized examinations, such as those of the Program for International Student Assessment, or PISA, which ranked the Philippines at the bottom of the list of around 70 countries throughout the world in terms of skills in mathematics and reading comprehension. So tandaan natin, sa PISA, what's important there is to raise the scores of the Philippines in terms of mathematics and reading comprehension. That's very important because throughout this discussion, you will see that it's really the focus of the Matatag curriculum. So we can see that the Matatag curriculum is not something that can easily be removed or changed, primarily because it is part of a well-planned strategy to address the issues on the K-12 curriculum, learning loss during the pandemic, and the low scores in the PISA examinations. And now, we may encounter the question, why is there a need for us to create a new curriculum? Why don't we just tweak the existing K-12 curriculum and make minor modifications? No? There could be several answers to this question, but basically, the two main reasons is that despite the K-12 curriculum being a very idealistic curriculum, it was not enough to help the Filipino students excel in standardized examinations, such as the PISA. And secondly, the issue is not just on the curriculum itself, but the other demands of the educational system on the part of the teachers that significantly affect their performance in teaching, in delivering the lessons to their students, making them unable to teach the fundamental skills and just being focused on finishing the lessons based on what is the duration indicated in the curriculum guide. So here, makikita natin, it's not just about what the students need to learn. It's also what we usually hear in schools, that sometimes the problem is not only with the students. Sometimes it could be the teachers. There's always a teacher factor. There is a curriculum factor. There is a school factor. There is a DepEd factor. So all of these things are being considered here. And unlike other curricula that we had in the past, the Matatag curriculum, I would say, would be the most comprehensive in terms of the approach because it does not only deal with students, it deals with everybody else who are involved in the teaching and learning process. After all, the curriculum is always meant to be improved anyway. As the author Peter Oliva puts it, you may be familiar with him if you took up courses in curriculum development because he wrote a lot of books on curriculum development. He said, curriculum change is a continuous process and that curriculum improvement is a continuous cycle. We cannot be stuck in just one curriculum forever. Otherwise, there will be no improvement at all. And from time to time, we need to pause for a while and see whether we are getting to where we want our students to be. And if based on what we see, we are not getting there on a pace that we expect ourselves to be, we need to identify the roadblocks. We need to understand the hindrances so we can revise our approach as may be necessary. And it is not just one person who created this new curriculum. It's not just VP Sara Duterte. In fact, the Department of Education shared in one of their official releases that there are actually more than 1,100 people involved in reviewing the old curriculum from the K-12 curriculum and developing the new Matatag curriculum. They investigated all the gaps that they saw in the curriculum and in the expectations that we have for our students. And these people are coming not only from the Department of Education, but they sought the advice of those from the private school sector, the higher education institutions, industry practitioners, industry partners, companies who will employ the students in the future, and even international experts with significant experience in curriculum development. And even if one person out of the 1,168 people who developed the curriculum leaves the Department of Education, resigns from her post, the results of the curriculum review would have been the same. And the newly revised curriculum is still expected to stay. So, the Matatag curriculum is not dependent on Vice President Sara Duterte alone. And the curriculum will still remain to be relevant, even with Secretary Angara taking over the Department of Education. If we have been to other training sessions or advocacy programs related to the Matatag curriculum, we would have already heard of the key features of this curriculum. The usual characteristics that the trainers say are about the new curriculum being decongested, di ba? Meaning, the number of subjects or learning areas in the curriculum has been reduced. For now, kasi there are only 5 major learning areas compared before that there are 7 to 8 depending on the grade level. And that is true, talaga namang nabawasan. But this does not mean that the students will be learning less things from the new curriculum. Hindi nabawasan yung matututunan. Nabawasan yung subjects pero hindi nabawasan yung matututunan. This is because the Department of Education merely wanted to give more time for students to learn about and master foundational skills, especially reading and basic mathematics. Again, bumabalik tayo dun sa results ng PISA, reading and mathematics. So that when they develop a solid understanding of these basic concepts, they will be able to understand more complex applications in the succeeding grade levels. Binawasan ng subject para magkaroon ng mas mahabang panahon sa mastery of the content. And since there is better involvement of representatives from various industries outside the government, there is also a clearer articulation of 21st century skills that are expected from students as they graduate from the whole program, meaning kinder to grade 12, and prepare to enter the world of work. And while values education under the title of Edukasyon sa Pagpapakatao has been removed from the curriculum, it was replaced by GMRC or Good Manners and Right Conduct, which is coming back, no? Yung title parehas doon sa dating ginagamit na title in the old administrations. But the content includes broader concepts on peace education, avoidance of conflict, religious tolerance, and inclusivity. Some of these concepts were not even part of the curriculum before. Inclusivity is a fairly new term that is being injected now in the curriculum. Dati, yung GMRC, hindi ganun yung content. So, it's more of a combination of values education, edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, and the old GMRC curriculum, plus the new and emerging concepts of tolerance, avoidance of conflict, and inclusivity. we can also notice that if we review the curriculum very closely, it appears to follow the pattern of the United States Common Core Curriculum, if you're familiar with that, which is accepted by many English-speaking countries as the international standard in education. Actually, if you're going to search for uh, lesson plans, reference materials online, most of this that are produced in other countries are based on the US Common Core Curriculum. Uh, so the Matatag curriculum is patterned after the US Common Core Curriculum, but contextualized based on the demands and the requirements and expectations of the Philippine education sector. If we're going to take a closer look at the comparison between the previous curriculum, which was the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum introduced during the time of the late former President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III, and the new Matatag curriculum under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the new curriculum still follows the same structure, which is the K6-412 program, wherein kindergarten is part of the required program. Kasi before the K-12 curriculum, hindi naman required yung kindergarten. A student can start in grade 1, di ba? For those here from the more senior generations, you know that, di ba? Na usually grade 1 ang start talaga ng school. Now, since the K-12 curriculum, kindergarten is part of the whole program now. So you cannot proceed to grade 1 without studying kindergarten first. Then it's continued by 6 years of elementary, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school. But now, in the Matatag curriculum, there is a stronger emphasis on core subjects rather than on applied and specialized skills, so that students will have a better knowledge of foundational skills, such as, again, reading and basic mathematics, both of which are the subjects where the Philippines is ranking low on the PISA examinations. Kasi if you're going to look back at the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum, ang naging focus doon is to let the students learn based on their area of interest. If they're more inclined to technical skills, they can start studying technical skills from their TLE courses, and eventually when they take up senior high school, they will proceed with the TVL curriculum. That's the whole track of the senior high school, of the old K-12 program. Ganoon. Talagang applied and specialized. Now, the Matatag curriculum brings us back to the basics, so students can master the fundamental concepts first, basic math, reading comprehension, because according to the experts who developed the curriculum, the more than 1,100 persons, if you master the basic skills, then it's easy for you to find applications after. The Matatag curriculum also promotes mastery of the subject matter and does not merely encourage students to be critical thinkers. Well, there is nothing wrong in training students to be critical thinkers. And that is actually what we want our students to be, diba? To be critical thinkers. But the Department of Education says that students cannot be critical thinkers if they don't master the basic subjects first. How can you think critically if you don't know the basics, if you don't know the foundation? So, this is the reason why the Matatag curriculum is only focused on kindergarten to junior high school for now. If you notice, yung mga nirelease na subjects ng DepEd and curriculum guide is only for kinder, grade 1, grade 4, and grade 7. And the senior high school is still out of the question. Hindi pa nire-revise yung senior high school curriculum. Because the foundational skills are mastered on these basic education grade levels. Kinder to grade 10. And once a student reaches senior high school, that is the time that they will acquire the applied and specialized skills based on their areas of interest. Dati kasi masyadong spiral, di ba? And that is also naman good, nothing wrong with that. Spiral na from kinder to grade 1 hanggang mag-junior high school, hanggang mag-senior high school, you're learning the same things over and over again. But with an increasing level of difficulty. So ngayon, spiral pa rin, pero mas stronger yung basic concepts doon sa early foundational years. And in terms of the medium of instruction, the use of English and Filipino remains the same, but the use of mother tongue-based multilingual education or MTB, MLE has been removed. Especially that not all regions in the Philippines have their own dialect. Naging problema to ng DepEd, especially for Luzon. Because for Visayas, for Mindanao, and the other remote provinces, they have their own they have their own mother tongue. But for Luzon, what's the mother tongue? So what happens most of the time, since there is no mother tongue for Tagalog-speaking regions, it's just a duplication of the Filipino subject. And MTB, MLE, mother tongue-based multilingual education, only adds to the congestion of learning competencies in the curriculum. Since nakikita nga, duplication lang siya ng Filipino, and after all, when students take standardized examinations, the examinations are not written in their native language, not in their mother tongue, no? It's usually in English or in Filipino. And since it was experienced by almost everyone during the onset of the pandemic, the introduction and the use of technology in education was merely encouraged before and not heavily emphasized. Kasi dati, kung teacher ka, you will use technology, okay, may plus points ka pag nagkaroon ng classroom observation. You're encouraged to use technology, but it's not reliant on technology alone. Technically, a teacher can deliver an entire lesson with only a chalk or a whiteboard marker on his or her hand. But now, there is a greater emphasis in the Matatag curriculum on digital literacy, with schools being required na to integrate ICT in the delivery of lessons. Not necessarily through the use of the internet, as long as there is ICT concepts there. You use ICT. So students and even teachers will be more familiar with the use of technology in education. So in the event that another global crisis or pandemic comes, there will be lesser learning loss, since the education industry is already familiar, it is already prepared to continue the teaching and learning process with the help of technology. So if we further look back to the curriculum before the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum, launched in 2011, the revised Basic Education Curriculum, or the RBEC, that was used from 2002 to 2010. So yung mga senior teachers familiar do sa RBEC, no? Where I guess many of the people in this call are a product of, judging from the profile na nakita ko before the start of the session, na nakita ko yung profile from the Zoom registration. The RBEC gave more importance on the memorization of concepts, since most examinations designed during that period were heavily reliant on the cognitive domain. So it was more of a head-level knowledge only. Diba? Kaya nga, kapag merong ibang klase ng examinations, for example, beyond recall, or it's on the other facets of Bloom's taxonomy, yung mga questions na ginagawa natin, or noon, medyo hirap yung mga students na sumagot kasi nasanay sila na ang nahasa lang sa kanila is the cognitive domain. So it was more of a head-level knowledge only. The K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum changed this, from 2011 onwards, by focusing on what we call the higher order thinking skills, or VHATs, where students were encouraged to dig deeper on concepts being presented to them, encouraging them to ask essential questions. So you remember then, when we started implementing UBD, or understanding by design, the backwards design of the curriculum, may tanong doon lagi, the essential questions. What are the essential questions for that particular topic? So we encourage our students to ask essential questions, and promoting more of an inquiry-based approach, where students ask more questions to develop a better understanding of the concepts being discussed. Now, in the Matatag curriculum, it combines the focuses of both the 2002 RBEC revised basic education curriculum, and the 2011 K-12 curriculum by saying that while higher order thinking skills are important, we still need to create a solid foundation on basic skills in order to equip our students to be better critical thinkers. Paulit-ulit ko na sinasabi, no? So now you're getting the idea of what the Matatag curriculum is. So now the foundational skills are seen as a prerequisite for higher order thinking. And again, since there is no time to go back to teaching the basic concepts, especially if the students are already in the higher grade levels. Alam nga naman, mayroong mga hindi na ituro na foundational skills ng kinder o grade 4 ka na, balik kinder ka muna. Walang ganon, di ba? So, the solution of the Department of Education is to reduce the number of competencies for each grade level, for each subject, by combining those that are related to each other into one competency. So they can make time for the rediscussion of basic concepts. Kaya nabuo yung kabayan subject. Kaya nawala yung ibang mga social science and humanities subjects. They are combined into one subject, which is the makabayan subject. It's because of that. To give more time for the rediscussion of basic concepts that were missed in the previous years of their education. And by now, it is becoming clearer to us that the Matatag curriculum is not merely a set of competencies issued by the Department of Education, but rather part of a bigger picture where the Philippine education system is heading to. To solve the problem in PISA and to recover what may have been lost during the pandemic, the Matatag agenda covers the implementation of the National Learning Recovery Program, which, according to Senator Win Gatchalian, during one of the engagements of the Second Congressional Commission on Education, or EDCOM2, addresses what he calls an emergency in the education system that needs urgent attention in order to mitigate the potential effects, or potential negative effects, rather, that this might bring to the greater Philippine economy. So hindi to, okay, mababa tayo sa PISA ngayon, sige, ito yung plano natin in the next 10 years. No, we need to do it now. It's not a long-term plan that we're making. It's something that we need to implement now, but we want the effects to be long-term. So, if you are from the public school sector, you may be familiar or you may have been already part of these initiatives na fairly new for many of us, such as the National Learning Camp, the National Reading Program, which is more popularly known as Catch-Up Fridays, na last year lang sinimulang implement ng DepEd, or in some private schools, the DEAR program, DEAR, which stands for Drop Everything and Read. Ginagawa na yan ng ibang mga schools, no? The National Mathematics Program, the National Science and Technology Program, and other relevant programs. So, babalik ka pa rin doon sa numeracy, no, math, and reading comprehension, na ito talaga yung focus itong Matatag curriculum na ito. So, what we see in the curriculum, or in the curriculum guides, is just the tip of the iceberg. No, we can download all the curriculum guides of the Matatag curriculum from DepEd's website. And what we will see there is just the tip of the iceberg, since the Matatag agenda is far greater than that. Actually, it does not only cover what skills and competencies students need to learn, but it also includes how schools will be more equipped in teaching such competencies to students, and how to prepare teachers to deliver the lessons properly to their learners. The whole Matatag agenda can be summarized into 4 major points or components, such as to make the curriculum relevant, to produce competent and job-ready, active and responsible citizens, to take steps to accelerate delivery of basic education facilities and services, to take good care of learners by promoting learner well-being, inclusive education, and a positive learning environment, and to give support to teachers to teach better. Doon ang galing yung Matatag na acronym. So, makikita natin, the teacher is part of the agenda. It's not just the students. The school is part of the agenda. It's everyone who is involved, but it does not end there. The question now is, how can these four major points or components be implemented in a more concrete manner? Is there a definite and step-by-step procedure on how to ensure that these competencies are being acted upon? And the answer to these questions is yes. The Department of Education actually laid out more specific actionable steps on how to fully implement this agenda. For the first point on making the curriculum relevant to produce competent and job-ready, active, and responsible citizens, we will see that revising the curriculum is just one of the many actionable steps that are laid out here. The goal of making the curriculum relevant included a significant review of the entire K-12 curriculum we used in the past, removing what needs to be removed, combining the things that can be combined, and increasing the focus on the concepts that need to be mastered. On the second point about taking steps to accelerate delivery of basic education facilities and services, not many of us know that the Matatag program also covers the creation of school facilities and infrastructure that will help make the implementation of the Matatag agenda more successful. Diba? May nakalagay kang ganito sa curriculum. Ito yung competency. Ganito mo siya, ito yung dapat matutunan ng estudyante. But you don't have the facilities to teach that particular competency. Diba? So it also includes providing various resources for students, such as library hubs, collections of educational materials, and making schools capable of adopting technology, covering schools both in the cities and those in the rural areas, and strengthening the complementarity between public and private schools so that they will not see each other as competitors on who teaches the better quality of education, public school ba or private school? Kasi sa tingin ng ng public school, mas magaling sila magturo kasi puro licensed teacher doon. Sa private school, may mga ibang private schools na may mga hindi licensed teacher. Sa tingin naman ng private school, mas dahil nag-undergo sila ng accreditation process at sila ay binabayaran, mas responsible sila doon sa tinuturo nila sa kanilang mga estudyante. So tingin nila mas magaling sila. So hindi ganoon para magbanggaan. But rather, as equal agencies, both working towards the attainment of the same Matatag agenda and enjoying the mutual support given by one another. Kasi on the part of the private schools, they act as the extension of the Department of Education for students who have better financial resources. So the government will be able to allot more slots to students who are more in need financially sa public school. No, kung may kaya ka naman, doon ka sa private school para mas maraming slots na maibigay yung DepEd since there are limited classrooms para sa mga estudyante na mas nangangailangan. And on the part of the government, they are supporting naman the private schools through financial assistance, grants, and subsidies. So, private schools can carry on the government's agenda when providing services to their own students. That's why we have the FAPE, diba? The GATSPE, the voucher program, the TSS. So for the third point on taking good care of learners by promoting learner well-being, inclusive education, and a positive learning environment, it is apparent that the Matatag curriculum's view of inclusivity in education is more than just incorporating the theory on multiple intelligences in the teaching and learning process. Kasi dati, ang tingin natin sa K-12 curriculum, gumamit ka ng multiple intelligences, that's inclusivity. You're already inclusive. Well, that's correct. But now, it expands its coverage for students who are in disadvantaged situations, such as those who have been in teenage pregnancy. Paano sila ipapasok ulit sa education sector? Children who are at risk, those who are in conflict with the law, those who are mentally unwell, those who are in indigenous groups and are in remote areas, and those with disabilities. How do we integrate them in the education system? Now that's the new concept of inclusivity. In the previous curricula implemented by the Department of Education, the concept of inclusive education was still quite different and limited. And coverage was not as extensive as the one that we have now in the Matatag curriculum. And for the fourth part, or fourth point on giving support to teachers to teach better, the previous curricula used by the Department of Education did not give much importance to teachers, unlike the one that we have now in the Matatag curriculum. This time, the curriculum does not only enforce what the students need to learn, but it also equips the teachers with the necessary skills, tools, and resources that they need in order to teach the required competencies effectively and efficiently. The Matatag curriculum gives importance to the benefits accorded to teachers, so they will have less things to worry about themselves, no? No, nandiyan na yung benefits ng GSIS, di ba? Ng DOH to give annual physical exam. Well, most of these are for the public school teachers, but the hope is that private schools will follow based on the pattern being laid out by DepEd. So teachers can focus more on what needs to be done inside the classroom as they facilitate the teaching and learning process. This also includes professional development programs like this one that we are doing right now, and capacitating our teachers to be better users of technology in order to make teaching more bearable for them and allowing them to be more efficient in doing the tasks expected from them. So if we're going to encapsulate the 4 points or components of the Matatag curriculum in just 2 points, we will arrive at the following. First is about the goal of the government to produce competent and job-ready citizens who are literate with basic and foundational knowledge and skills and can communicate well. And second, is about the efforts being undertaken by the government in order to ensure the attainment of their goal, which is to improve educational infrastructure, promote better inclusive education, and students' holistic well-being, and support teachers in becoming better educators, all towards making a positive learning environment for our students. So laging binabanggit na, no, yung teacher, positive building of teachers, empowering the teachers, and building infrastructure. So hindi na lang siya tungkol sa curriculum. And if we're to further compress these 2 points in just one statement, we will realize that the main goal of the Matatag curriculum is fairly simple. And that is to make every Filipino learner literate. And everything else, including strategies, plans, and others, are all pointing towards that direction of making Filipinos literate. And this is not just a single person's job. This is the job of teachers, instructional leaders, the parents, the government, and the whole society acting as a support mechanism towards the attainment of this goal. So, having said all of those things about the Matatag curriculum, what is it that really makes the Matatag curriculum unique in contrast with the previous curricula used by the Department of Education? Since there is a greater focus on the capacity building of teachers, the new Matatag curriculum recognizes that teachers have the full control and responsibility of the teaching and learning process inside the classroom. Hence, the curriculum no longer states how teachers are supposed to teach the subjects, but merely indicates what needs to be taught. Basically, the teacher is given a free hand on deciding the duration of lessons and using appropriate assessment strategies that they see fit that will help identify if students are actually learning the skills expected of them and determining what level of proficiency they are in. Let's take a look at this curriculum guide for kindergarten as an example. In the K-12 Enhanced Basic Education Curriculum, which is on the left side of your screens, there is obviously more columns. No? Layout pa lang, kitang-kita natin yung pagkakaiba. There are more columns, which also includes a column for the code for each competency. Kung nagturo kayo ng K-12 curriculum, alam niyo yan, may code. If you are familiar with the old curriculum, the code actually gives us a lot of information about what the Department of Education expects from teachers in each competency. Kasi on the code itself, yan nakalagay, no? SEKPSE-00-1 or -1A-1.1. Ano yung meaning yan? The first set of letters refer to the subject, followed by Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, or 4 to indicate which quarter it should be taught. Further followed by a letter which indicates the sequence of lessons per week, where A means it should be taught on week 1, B means it should be taught on week 2, C means it should be taught on week 3, and so on. And the code ends with a number indicating the sequence of learning competencies based on what needs to be taught first. So, in this case, na may nakalagay, no? SEKPSE 1F-2. Anong meaning niyan? So, meaning to say, SE, socio-emotional. Yan, socio-emotional na part siya ng kindergarten program. Ano yung ibig sabihin ng 1F? It's first quarter. F means week number 6. And the last number there, number 2, means it is the second topic or the second competency for the first quarter. And hindi ka pwedeng lumagpas, hindi ka pwedeng masyadong mag-dwell sa isang topic ng matagal. Kasi may nakalagay na dito, ano yung dapat mong ituro the following week. And if you do not follow that, lalabas na you're not compliant with the curriculum guide already. Ganun ka-rigid, no? Yung K-12 curriculum before. So, the old curriculum forces teachers to strictly follow the manner by which DepEd wants them to teach the lessons. And in some curriculum guides for other levels and subjects, even the teaching strategies and the reference materials are also indicated in the curriculum guide. So parang yung curriculum guide, yun na yung syllabus. Yun na yung lesson plan. Kasi nandun na yung competency, nandun na kung kailan siya ituturo, nandun yung duration, nandun yung reference materials, nandoon yung teaching strategies na gagawin mo. And the method of assessment, no? If you are going to check all the dozens of curriculum guide of the K-12 curriculum, ganun yung makikita natin. And in the new Matatag curriculum guide, only the content standard, itong nasa kanan nito content standard, performance standard, and the learning competencies are left. Yun na lang yung naiwan. And the codes indicating the duration and sequence of lessons are no longer included. Hence, the new Matatag curriculum allows for greater flexibility on the part of the teachers, allowing them to decide when to move forward to the next lesson and judging by their own competence based on the results of the assessments they are giving to their students. So, hindi na kailangan na week 1 itong ituro, week 2 itong ituro, week 3 itong ituro. Hindi kailangan na yung lahat ng sections sabay-sabay. Week 1 itong i-discuss natin. Week 2 dapat lahat ng section ito na dinidiscuss. Paano kung may isang section medyo lagging behind? 'Di ba? May mga students na hindi nakakasunod. Pero yung ibang sections kailangan nang mag-move forward. Anong tendency sa teacher noon pagka ganun? Iiwanan na yung competencies na hindi na ituro ng maayos o hindi naintindihan ng maayos because they need to move forward to comply. So ngayon, wala nang ganon. Wala nang week 1, week 2, week 3. So the teacher is given the free hand, is given the flexibility to decide whether it's time to move forward to the next lesson. And here's another example of a curriculum guide for science naman in grade 4. Very evidently, you can see that code, the list of learning materials, and even the list of science equipment to be used are no longer indicated in the new curriculum. After all, not all schools have the same equipment available in their campuses. Diba? And not everyone has access to the reference material stated in the curriculum guide. Paano kung laboratory subject sa science, no? Na nakalagay na science equipment, microscope. Paano kung yung school walang microscope? Ibig sabihin, hindi na sila compliant sa curriculum. So, in the end, teachers are still expected to create their own syllabi and learning plans anyway. Doon na nila ilalagay kung ano sa tingin nila yung appropriate and available materials they have, and even references, where they will be deciding on what materials do they have that they can use for their classes. But now that DepEd is giving teachers more flexibility in determining the teaching strategies and duration of each lesson, teachers need to be more knowledgeable about how to effectively determine the best way of teaching the lessons indicated in the curriculum. Kaya makikita natin sa matatag agenda kanina, may pagpapahalaga na binibigay sa teachers. Kasi sila na ngayon ang magde-decide sa loob ng classroom kung kailan ituturo at kung ano na ang susunod na ituturo. So, for this purpose, teachers are expected to do the unpacking of competencies, wherein they will need to identify what resources are available to them and whether these resources will contribute to the purpose of the lessons that they will be teaching. They will also need to take consideration of the time that they will spend in teaching the lessons. Since even if DepEd does not enforce the duration anymore, teachers still need to finish the curriculum for the entire quarter and of course within the school year. No? Wala ngang specific duration in terms of weeks, pero meron pa rin quarters. Ito pa rin yung kailangan mong matapos sa buong taon. Or else, this will contribute, no, to more learning losses when students move forward to the next grade level without mastering the required competencies from their previous grade level. And most books on curriculum development suggest these 5 P's in unpacking learning competencies. For the purpose, teachers need to identify what are they teaching and why are they teaching the lesson. Where does the lesson fit in the entire curriculum? And how will it benefit the students? Na kapag hindi mo masyadong minaster or finocus yung isang lesson na yon, how will it affect the succeeding parts of the curriculum or the succeeding competencies? For the preparation, teachers need to determine if they have the right resources, if the classroom is fit for the purpose, and if they need any special arrangements in order to deliver the lesson. For the pitch, teachers need to describe how they are going to implement differentiated learning strategies. What is the proficiency level of their students so they can deliver the lesson more appropriately? Baka naman nasa beginning stage pa lang, no, yung mga estudyante. Hindi pa sila talagang proficient. Yung approach mo parang nagtuturo ka na ng advanced stage. And how are they going to manage extending the duration of the lesson if the fundamental skills are still not mastered on time? Anong approach? Anong strategy? For the pace, teachers need to identify what learning activities are they going to ask their students to do and what varied strategies they can do to keep the classes enjoyable and not redundant for students. And for the progress, teachers need to determine how they will measure the student's level of learning and understanding. And how will they know if a student has actually mastered the competencies or not? So, in terms of mastering the competencies, it would help if teachers will be able to identify how they would describe a student who belongs to a particular level of proficiency. In this case, if there are 4 stages of proficiency, such as students who merely know the prerequisite skills, yung nasa pinakaibaba, prerequisite lang yung alam nila. No? Students who are progressing, students who are becoming proficient, and students who are advanced. What are the actual measurable indicators that teachers can check to see if the students have met what is being asked in the curriculum? Parang rubrics, ano? Merong good, better, best. How would you determine a student who is good, who is better, and who is best? How would you determine a student who just mastered the prerequisite skills, or students who are already progressing, students who are becoming proficient, and students who are already advanced? For example, in mathematics, how can a teacher know that a student barely knows the basics or the prerequisite skills? How will a teacher know if the student is starting to make progress? How will a teacher know if the student is becoming proficient when dealing with numbers? How would a teacher describe a student who has an advanced knowledge of mathematics? And kapag nagsama-sama sila sa isang loob, sa isang classroom, no, may klase ka na may student na prerequisite, may student na progressive, may student na proficient, may student na advanced. How will you deal with all of them at the same time? So it's not just about learning ano yung learning style ng mga estudyanteng ito, pero how will you deal with them all together na magkakasama sila? And once a teacher has identified the descriptions for these levels of proficiency, it will be easier for that teacher to design assessments that are suitable for their learners to check if they have already mastered the learning competencies indicated in the curriculum guide. So in the new Matatag curriculum, we can specifically see that learners are grouped based on the key stages where they are expected to be. Key stage 1 includes students from kindergarten to grade 3, where they are expected to be in the primary level of education. Key stage 2 includes students from grades 4 to 6, where they are expected to be in the intermediate level. And lastly, key stage 3, where students from grade 7 to 10 are considered to be in the secondary level of education. So, varying levels of proficiency din yan. So, under the spiral curriculum, di ba, kapag ganitong different levels of proficiency for each level, the same topics are being taught in all levels, but these topics will have a varying level of difficulty. For example, the concept of verbs, no, action words in the English subject naman. It is taught even in grade 1. And this will be taught again in grade 4. And the same topic will be taught again in grade 7, yung verb hindi na natapos-tapos ituro. Because that's part of the spiral progression. But the expectations from students who learn about verbs in different stages are also different depending on which stage they are in. Diba? Maybe they will just learn about what an action word is on grade 1. Then they will identify which words are action words based on a set of different words, no, when combined with other topics, no, in grade 4. And they will incorporate or use these verbs in essays or other forms of written work when they're already in grade 7. So it's still verb, but there is a varying level of difficulty. So nagkakaroon ng mastery. So when planning lessons, it is important for teachers to ask these 3 guide questions first. Where do they need to go? Meaning, what is their goal and purpose for that lesson? Where they are now? Where are the students now? What is their meaning? What knowledge their students already have at the moment? And more importantly, how can they get to where they want to be? Meaning, what strategies are they going to undertake in order to achieve their goal or that expected outcome? In pedagogy, of course, this is called the zone of proximal development, which was contributed by Lev Vygotsky. In this diagram, the teacher is encouraged to identify what is already known, what is not yet known, and what is it that students can learn if they are given the necessary support and assistance. But of course, we do not want to complicate things. No? So please allow us to share with you some developments that we have been working on at Cerebro in order to contribute to the implementation of the new Matatag curriculum. Since we are doing our best to complement what is being provided by the government, as well as the skills and creativity of teachers in delivering the lessons to their students. As I mentioned earlier, the focus of Cerebro Showcase, like this webinar, is to feature the various innovations that Cerebro is working on and relate these innovations to the developments happening in the Philippine education system. In this case, the Matatag curriculum. And you have heard earlier that Cerebro is an educational technology provider specializing in digital content. And since Cerebro has already created more than 4,000 e-learning contents covering 129 subjects from kindergarten to senior high school, it will not be as hard as you think anymore to prepare teaching materials for the new curriculum. Kasi baka yun ang iniisip na ngayon ng maraming teachers. Bagong curriculum, bagong expectation. So we will have to create all our presentations from scratch. We will have to create everything all over again. But I've been teaching this subject for 5 years, 10 years already. Sanay na ako dun sa materials ko. Now I have to do a new one. So, well, teachers, no, like what I've mentioned kanina, they're given more flexibility in delivering their lessons in the new curriculum. But still, around 80% of the things that they will discuss are based on standardized concepts pa rin. For example, the rules of division and multiplication will remain the same based on the standard rules of mathematics, di ba? And these rules will not change even if the teacher has more flexibility in determining how to teach this to his or her students and how long are they going to teach this. Parehas pa rin yung content. No? Ang nagbago lang is flexibility. Kailan ituturo, gaano katagal ituturo, paano mamamaster. So, for our part, Cerebro can help teachers with that 80% that are standardized based on the Matatag curriculum guide. And still, the teacher can add his or her 20% creativity and flexibility in delivering the lessons to the students. Now, I will be forwarding you to my colleague, Leslie, who will be showing you some of the content later on that we have that are aligned with the Matatag curriculum. So teachers don't have to do everything from scratch anymore and potentially allowing them to lessen their preparation time by up to 2 hours per day or roughly 400 hours for the entire school year. But she will be presenting this in a manner na maipakita nasan ito mismo doon sa coverage ng Cerebro ecosystem or Cerebro product. So this is something that we have developed with the help of the Department of Science and Technology because they provided the funding to develop this system that Cerebro was able to create. So Leslie, so she will be giving you a demonstration of what we have and what you can expect uh, based on the curriculum of the Matatag. Saan siya makikita? Paano siya mai-implement? Paano siya makakatulong sa pag-i-implement niyo ng Matatag curriculum? Okay, Leslie?
Okay, so thank you so much for that, Sir Justin, and good morning to our dear participants in this morning. Before I proceed, let me introduce myself. I am Leslie, the current COO of Cerebro. So maybe let us know first if you are still here with us. Maybe you can comment anything in the chat box or maybe press any reaction. So yeah, we may also know if you are still with us. Okay, yeah, there. So thank you for all those reaction. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so I hope you are able to see my screen already. So it's actually an honor for us to present you our system, which is Cerebro Plus. So Cerebro Plus is actually an integrated school management and content library system for schools. So it's actually the enhanced version of the Cerebro platform, which integrate processes from enrollment to graduation into a single platform. It has 4 system portals, which include the following. So we have the school admin portal, teacher, student, parent, and parent portal. So let me walk you through these different portals. So let me just share another screen. Okay. So now you are seeing the login page of our system. So we have here a demo campus, which is Centennial Academy. So let me just walk you first with the school admin portal. So first, in order for us to log into our system, we need to input here our email address and our password. So let me just enter uh, the school admin account and also the password. And after that, let us click login. Okay. So as we log in, we will be directed now to our dashboard page wherein the school admin can see these various metrics in their dashboard page. So we will be presented here the total number of enrolled students in our school, the total of active courses, meaning to say these are the courses that we are currently offering in our school. Then we have here the fees collected today, the account receivable. Then we can also see the number of teachers with expiring license and also expired license. We can also generate a list of the teachers who have expiring license as well as with expired license. Okay, so this will also help the school admin to monitor who are those teachers who need to renew their license or maybe a copy of this record. Next, we will also have here the announcement module wherein the school admin can also post school-wide announcement. So when the school admin posts announcement, it can also be seen in the student and even student, teacher, and also the parent portal. Next, we also have here the users module wherein the school admin can also add their students and also enroll them in their subjects. And also the school admin can create or add their teachers in their campus as well as the parent. Okay. Next, we also have here the academics module. So of course, the school admin can has the ability to set up their campus. So by adding first the academic year, so for example, we have the current school year for 2024 and 2025. And after that, we can also add the educational levels, for example, from preschool to college. Next, we also have here the grade levels. So we can also add those grade levels that our school is currently offering, maybe from kinder to grade 12, or maybe if we also have college or even graduate school. Next, we also have here sections. So I believe that sometimes each grade level also has their different section. So a school admin can also add different sections. And lastly, we have here the courses. So we can also add all the courses that we are currently offering in our school. So for example, for this one, we have already added those matatag subjects. Next, we also have here the admission. So the school admin can also facilitate the enrollment process of their school. So they can create the admission register here wherein the student can enroll on their own school portal. I mean, in their own portal wherein they can also submit their school requirements there. So later on when we are going to discuss on the student side, I'll also show you how they're going to do that. Okay, then after that, the school admin can also evaluate applicants here. So here, they can also see who are the students currently enrolling in their own campus. So they can also screen the documents, screen the applicants, validate the documents submitted by the student here, and also assessing the subjects and also uh, assigning them the load or the student load. Next, we also have here the accounting module wherein the school admin can also monitor the statement of account of the student. Aside from that, the school admin can also register the payment. So we also have the option for the student to manually uh, pay in their own school cashier, but they can also use our uh, online portal for the payment. Okay, then the school admin can also add the miscellaneous fees here. So you can also include other school fees that you have in your school. And lastly, we have here the reports. So the school admin can generate reports for the account receivable, download this so you have your data in your school. And the manual payments, we have here the record wherein we have the list of payments received manually encoded in the system. And also for those that were received online. Okay. Next, we have here the registrar module. So the school admin also has the ability to uh, process the request of the student, especially for those school documents. Also, the student can also request documents in their own portal. So later on, I'm going to show you that also. So for example, if the student wants to create different requests, we have here POR, report card, or other documents. Like for example, if the student wants to request for good moral certificate or other certificate that the school is releasing. So they can also uh, approve that and release here in the portal itself. Next, we have here the library. So the school admin can also, if you have your own designated school librarian, you may also encode here or record here all your references in your library. So that's here we have the collection of the references that we have this in school, wherein our student or even our teacher can borrow these references. Okay, so we can also record who are the borrowers. For example, for the student, we may also record who borrowed the book and when they did borrow it, and the return date of that specific book. And next, we also have here gatekeeper. So okay. For the gatekeeper, it is also a way for the school admin to monitor the entrance and exit of our student. So let me just show you. Let us open the kiosk. Okay, so in this part, the student may have their RFI ID, so wherein they can just tap their ID, and then after the system can easily track their ID number, and automatically they will also have their entry type, either it's entrance or exit. So in this way, the school admin may monitor who are the students currently entering the campus and who are actually going out in their own campus. Okay, so next we also have here Cerebro Pay. So Cerebro Pay is actually our e-wallet. So in their RFID, aside from having it as the one big use in the gatekeeper, you can also use that for their e-wallet. Okay, so here in the purchases, so we can see here the purchase history of our student. For example, if they want to purchase in their canteen, so they may also add it here. So here in the e-wallet, we can see the list of names of the student who have their top-up history. So the e-wallet balance. So they will, this will also reflect in the student portal. So yeah, so this is the top-up history. So the times that the student is asking for the school admin to add an amount in their e-wallet. And lastly, for the school admin, we have here the reports. Okay, as a school admin, we know that it's really important for us to generate different reports, especially at the end of the school year. So here are the reports that we can generate from our system. So first, we have the class program. So the class program is actually maybe per section. We have the schedule. Next, we have the student load. Let me just show you a sample for this. Okay. So, okay. So this is a sample of classroom program that we have. Then for the student load report, we have here a sample data for the study load for a student. Then we also have here the teaching load report. So a sample of the teaching load where we have here the course title and the course section, and also the schedule. Next, we also have here the report card. So the school admin can also generate report card if ever the student wants to request a copy for this. So this is a sample of report card also. Then we also have a TOR. So this one is a sample TOR that is being generated from our system. And lastly, no, we still have two more. So we can also generate academic performance report. So this one is a sample academic performance report in English 5. Then here, lastly, we have what we call the demographic profile report, wherein we can also filter that per student or for teacher also. So this is a sample demographic profile by age, by gender for student. Okay, so that's it. So those are actually the functions and features that we have for the school admin. Okay, so now let me walk you through to the teacher portal. So let me just log out first. Okay, so of course, since we have the same campus, we have the same login page. The different one is just the access. Okay, so let me just log in with my teacher account. Okay, so just need to log in with our email address and our password. So just click login. Then after, we will now be directed to our dashboard page. Okay, so we have here the latest announcement posted by the school admin. So what I have said a while ago, since the school admin has the um ability to post school-wide announcement, now the teacher, the student, and even the parent can already view it in their own portal. Okay. Next, we have here the profile. So the teacher can also update their uh profile information in their own portal, like for example, their personal information. So they can include all the necessary information here. They can also include their educational background and also the lessons information. So you can also upload here a photo of your license. Then you can also include those information for your license here so that the school admin can also have a record for this in their own portal. Okay. Next, we have here my classes. So here we can see those subjects that we are currently enrolled or assigned as the teacher. So for example, we have here academic year 2024 and 2025. Okay, so we have here actually the list of those subjects for the school year. So we have here the course title, the schedule for those subjects, the credit units, and also we have here the different actions that we can see. Okay, so now let us go first to our subject. So in order for us to be directed on our LMS, we just need to click the course title. Okay, so for example, this one. Okay, so as we click the subject, we will now be directed to our LMS. Okay, so uh, now let me show you how teachers can align their lessons with the curriculum standard. So I will be showing you some example of our materials wherein you can see the alignment of our contents in the in the curriculum. Okay, so I know it is a crucial aspect of preparing lessons to ensure our students received a comprehensive education, and aligning our lessons with the curriculum standard ensures that we are meeting the educational goals set by our education system. So this also help ensure that all our students are learning what they need to succeed at the next level. So of course, the first step is to understand the curriculum standard, just what Sir Justin gave us a while ago. So this involves reading and comprehending the standards for our grade level and subject area. So let me just show you here a sample. The curriculum guide for Mathematics 4. So this is already in the MetaTag curriculum. So the next step is to map out our curriculum. So this involves actually creating a long-term plan for the school year wherein it aligns how and when you will cover each standard. So maybe you are also familiar with your syllabus or curriculum map. So that's also involved as in that process. So how can we ensure that our lesson plans align with the standard? So we usually start each lesson plan by identifying the relevant standards or the learning competencies. So for example, we are going to create a lesson plan which talks about these learning competencies. So let me just read the competencies. So first, identify proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed number. Rewrite improper fractions into mixed number and vice versa. And lastly, flat fraction for proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed number. So let me show you a sample of our teaching guide. Okay, so teaching guide or our lesson plan. Okay, so where it talks about fraction. Okay, so let me just find the lesson. Okay, so this competency actually tackles about the concept of fraction. Okay, so here's our teaching guide wherein we can see already that here is the learning competency to be discussed in this lesson. Okay, then after that, of course, the teacher will now prepare um, or design activities and assessment specifically target those competency. So this is a sample lesson uh, for this, wherein it talks about the concept of fractions, wherein in our material, we also include here the competencies to be discussed in this lesson. So we have here the 3 competencies aligned with our teaching guide and also in the curriculum guide also. Okay, so here in the teaching guide, we have here the first part, which is we have the preliminary activity. So it's, sort of a motivation part before we dive into the actual lesson. So if you notice, we have here a picture, we're in a sample problem. Then if we check our lesson, we also have here the part for the preliminary activity. So it is now on the teacher and how they're going to discuss this in to their student. Next, we have here the lesson proper, wherein it is divided into 3 parts. So we have the introduction, integration, interaction, and integration. So for the introduction, the teacher can also introduce the concept of fractions. So we have here the discussion part. So if you also check our uh lesson, we have here the part wherein the teacher can discuss about the differences between the differences of proper, improper fraction, and also the mixed number. So as we continue along with the lessons, we can see that the topic is being discussed all throughout the material. And also, if you also check in our teaching guide, some part of this, especially in the interaction part, is already included in the lesson. Okay, so let me just finish the slide. So it talks about the topic that we have right now about fraction. And of course, uh, another important aspect is we have the formative assessment. So in our platform, we also prepare ready-made questions that teacher can also use to give to their student. So here in our teaching guide, we also have here the post test or the assessment part wherein the teacher can give them to their student. Okay, so this is a sample. So this is also actually the one that I have shown you in teaching guide. So we have here 10 items, which is also talks about concepts of fraction. So it is again aligned with the competencies. Okay, so this assessment or this formative assessment can also measure students' understanding. And aside from that, we can also expose our student to various interactive simulation to further enhance their skills, especially on the topic that we're going to discuss to them. So let me show you. So we have more than 80 interactive simulations in our system. So let me show you a sample wherein it is aligned with our topic right now. So it's about fraction. So now we have here the interactive simulation where we can ask the student to explore about this activity. Okay, so for example, we have here a build a fraction activity. So let me just share it in full screen. Okay. So for example, as the student to build a fraction, so we have here different levels. So each level after successfully answering all of those, so they go up and up until they finish all the activities here. So let me show a sample. So for example, this one, we are given some samples here, different fractions, 1/3, 2/3, and 2, or the whole number. Okay. So here we can now try what do you call this, building the fraction for the different given fractions here, sample fraction. For example, 1/3. So let me have a 3 division, so you can also explain to your student that the shaded part is the numerator and the divided parts here is the denominator. So this is 1/3. For example, let me just, okay, so of course that is not 1/3. For example, if the student answers, okay, we also hear the sound that it's actually the incorrect answer. Okay, so let me, okay, so for example, this one, we get the correct answer. So we also hear the sound that it is the correct answer. Then it is actually accepted in the box. Okay, so let me proceed with a sample. So it's still 2/3. So let me finish this one. So right there. And then another. So just two. So, okay. And then, so after we finish the first level, we can proceed with the next one until the student finishes all the levels for this subject, for this activity. Okay, aside from that, we also have here what we call the lab. Okay, so in this lab activity, sorry for that. Let me share again in full screen. Okay, so in this part is some sort of exploring different kind of fractions. So you can also ask your student to do this. For example, you may ask them to build the fractions for 1 and 2/3. So here you can also ask them to build the presentation for these. So for example, I have here 1. Let me also add again. So 1, and then, okay, then, oh, sorry for that. Okay. Okay. So this one, you may also explain to your student that this is a sample presentation for 1 and 2/3 fraction. Okay. So yeah, so that's more about our interactive simulation, but this will also, I mean, the continuous assessment and adjustment are also a key to successful teaching. So that's it. Let me just go back to our portal. Okay. Okay. So I have just present you some samples that we have in our LMS. So we also have here a button wherein we can view the list of student or the class list. So if you click this one, we can generate the list of students that we have in our class. For example, in Araling Palipunan 5, we can download the class list. Okay, so we will have here a spreadsheet wherein it includes all our students. Next, we have here the attendance. So if you click this one, we can also add or record the attendance of our students. Okay, then we also have here the summary of the attendance of our student, which includes present, absent, late, and excused. And next, we also have here the encoding of grades module, wherein the teacher can also include, encode student grades for each quarter. So from quarter 1 to quarter 4, they can also include the final grade and also include the remarks for their student. Okay, and we can also download the grade sheet. So I believe that if you also want to have the data wherein you can transfer that in your own school e-record template, then you can also do that. Okay. So yeah, those are what we can see in our My Classes module. Next, we have here the lesson planner. So I believe this will also be discussed with Sir Jason later on. So let me just skip this one. But lesson planner, I think this is also mentioned a while ago by Jamel. It's actually it will also help the teacher to generate their own lesson plan per subject. Okay, and next we have here the library. So here in the library, we can, as teacher, we can also uh, look for available references from the school library. So if you remember, the school admin can also encode all the reference that they have there. So here in the teacher portal, they can search what references are available for them to borrow. Okay. So yeah, those are the functionalities and features that we have for the teacher. So now let us proceed with the student portal. Okay, so let us just log out from my teacher account, and then I'll just need to close some tabs here. So again, the same login page since we are accessing the same campus. So let me just log in with my student account. Mm, Okay, this one. So just include your email address and your password, then click login. Okay, so now we are directed to the dashboard page of our student portal, wherein we can see here the latest announcement also posted by the school admin. Okay, next we have here the profile module wherein the student can also edit their profile information, so including the personal information. So the student can just fill in all those necessary information here. And by the way, all the data here is actually aligned with the information asked from the LIS, if you are familiar with the Learner Information System. So all the data here is actually included. Next, we also have here the family background wherein the student can fill the necessary details about their parent information. And lastly, we have here the educational background. Okay, so the student may also update all of this once they already receive their access in their own portal. Next, we have here the admission. So this is the part wherein the student can actually enroll their own self in the campus. So first, they just need to submit all the school requirements, especially those that are required. For example, the report card, or if the school require also the birth certificate. So this part they can also upload all those documents here. Next, we have here admission or enrollment. So the student can also monitor their admission status here and also the admission periods. For example, there is an open admission for elementary here. So if the student thinks that it is the admission for her or him, then she can submit the application for this. So as the student submitted his or her application, the school admin can now validate the documents being submitted by the student, and then just follow the enrollment process they have in their school. Next, here in my classes, so just like this, the teacher, the student can also access their own classes in their own portal. So here we have different academic years. So aside from viewing the current what do you call this classes, you can also view the previous course for as long as the student is still enrolled in those subjects. Okay, so let me just open, for example, the subjects under academic year 2024-2025. So we will be presenting here the list of courses enrolled for the student this current school year, and also the schedule, so that the student will also know what time is it for him or her to enter the class. Okay. Next, we also have here the teacher assigned for those subjects and the credit units. And in each subject, the student can also check their attendance. Okay. So for example, if the student wants to access their classes in Araling Panlipunan 6, so they just need to click the course title and they will be directed in the LMS. Okay. So wherein they can already view the class materials prepared by their teacher. Next, we have here the attendance. Okay, so for example, this one we don't have any attendance yet for Araling Panlipunan 6, but let me show you a sample wherein we have here, for example, in Araling Panlipunan, I think it's 4. Okay, for example, in this one, in this subject, we have recorded some attendance for Sophia. So yeah, so the student can also monitor their attendance in their subject. Okay. Next, we have here the My Choose. So in this module, the student can actually monitor those invoice that they have receiving from the school admin and also the payment transaction. So yeah, so that the student will also know if they have already paid their dues in their school registrar or their cashier. Next, we have here the My Grades module wherein the student can also view their grades in their different subjects. For example, for this one, these are actually the previous subjects that Sophia has for the previous school year. So she can still view her records. Okay. Next, we have here the My Request module wherein the student can also request different school documents in their own portal. So for example, here if they want to request forms, so we have here just the same as what I have presented with you in the school admin portal. We have here the POR, the report card, and other documents. Okay, next. Of course, after submitting those requests, the student can also monitor the status of those documents. So we have here the request and record tab wherein we can see here the type of record requested, the description, so the submitted date, so when we ask for that document, the status, and also the payment link. So the student also has the option to pay online or if they want it to pay via school cashier, they can also do that. Then here in the file, if the school admin already released a document being requested by the student, they will also be able to view it here in their own portal. Okay? Next, we have here the Cerebro Pay. So Cerebro Pay is actually the student e-wallet. So as we can see, we have here the balance, which is 350 pesos. We're in. We can also see the purchase history. So meaning to say, we can also monitor what are the things that the student is buying or purchasing in school. And top of history is, of course, the student will ask the school admin to add an amount in their own e-wallet. Okay, and lastly, we have here the library. So this is just the same with the teacher. So they can just look for any references available in their uh, school library. So they can actually search by title, description, author, edition, ISBN, category, or per grade level. Okay? So yeah, those are actually the modules and features that we have for the student portal. Let me just log out and now let me proceed with the parent portal. Okay? So let me just get my access for the parent portal. So you may also be able to compare all those portals based on what I have presented. So let me just uh here is my email address and then the password. Then after that, click login. Okay. So now we can see the teacher port. I mean parent portal. Sorry for that. Okay, so for a while, I can see my screen. Okay, so as we log in our parent portal, we are also directed in our dashboard page wherein we can see the latest announcement posted by the school admin. So this will also help the parent to be, updated on what or some announcement that or updates that they have in their health school or campus. So next we have here the profile so that parent can also update their personal information here by just filling all the necessary information. So this will also help the school admin just in case they want to get contact information about the parents so they can just access or get the details also from their own portal. Next, we have here the My Children. So here we can see all those students included for us as a parent. For example, for this, we have Sophia Isabel. So the parent can actually see the classes of the student or his or her child, view the grades, and also view the bills. For example, let me just view the classes for this. So it's like as the student, they can also see all those subjects enrolled in the different academic year. So for example, this one, the parent can see the courses enrolled to their children for the current school year, the schedule also, who are the teachers assigned for those subjects, the credit units, and also the parent can also monitor the attendance of their children. Okay, so they will also know if they are really attending the classes of their teachers or not. Okay, and we can also view the grades of our children. So for example, for this one, we can actually see here the grades from quarter one to quarter four, also included the final grade and the remarks. Okay, so the parent also has the access in this kind of report. And lastly, the parent can also view the bills or the dues of the student. So we can see here the assessments, so meaning to say these are the invoices of the student to be paid, and we can actually see here the when it is issued, the due date, the amount due, and also the status of the payment. And we can also see here the payment transaction made by the student or even the parent, since the parent can also pay uh, their students due. Okay, so yeah, those are the things that we have in our platform from the school admin, teacher, student, and lastly, the parent portal. So thank you so much. I hope you learned something from my presentation. Thank you, Sir
Okay,
Christine.
thank you very much, Leslie, for sharing that. So, what Leslie presented is Cerebro's platform and how the contents integrated in Cerebro's platform are aligned in the Matatag curriculum. But what she presented are the ready-made contents that we have. Now, what if you have the curriculum guide and you want to generate editable lesson plans, but we don't have an idea on where to start. 'Di ba? Kasi minsan parang nagkakaroon ng mental block din ng teachers on how to start designing the lesson for a particular topic or for a particular session. So, I'm sharing with you now what we have been working on with our partners very recently. So, this is Lesson Planner. So, this is already live and available for those schools to subscribe to the Cerebro Plus platform. So, you can see here, we just need to input several details, which we can also find in the curriculum guide. For example, for the course title, this is for science. For grade 4, we can just copy the other details from DepEd's curriculum guide. So, for example, let me just copy and paste. For the content standard, I'll also get it from the curriculum. performance standard. I'll copy also from the curriculum guide. I'll just put the details here. Okay. Put everything and another learning competency. I'll put 2 learning competencies for this. And once I have keyed all the details already, I'll just click generate teaching guide. And let's see what will happen. So now, Lesson Planner, which is integrated directly in Cerebro's platform, was able to generate a teaching guide or the lesson plan actually that teachers can use for their classes. And it includes all the details, including the preliminary activity, the lesson proper, the integration activity, like the generalization, including the post-test. So meron na rin kayo ditong quiz with the answer key. And if you click on download, we can actually download this. And let me share the downloaded output. Okay. Here. So I was able to download it in Microsoft Word format, which I can edit. And you can see the things that I have inputted from the curriculum guide are already placed here. And if you want to make some edits, you can directly edit it. You can also see the references. No? Unlike kapag gumamit kayo ng AI, di ba? For example, ChatGPT, it doesn't actually give you the references for the materials that you will be using for your classes. The learning competencies are here, other alternative activities are here, and if you want to make this your own, just remove the logo of Cerebro, and it's up to you if you will be inserting the name of your school. So for example, your school is Centennial Academy, so put the name of your school there or the logo of your school, and you can make this as your own lesson plan that you can use as a starting point for your classes. So this is included already in the Cerebro subscription. So if you are subscribed already to Cerebro, this is by default available there in the Cerebro Plus platform, and you have the initial AI credits that are loaded into your account. So let me go back to the Matatag. No? So Matatag, summarize, is something that DepEd created without focusing on the students alone. This is something created by DepEd with the teachers and the whole community in mind. So at Cerebro, our role here is to help teachers in capacity building, in making them more comfortable and making them more efficient in terms of teaching the new curriculum. And I hope that all of us will be able to support this initiative of the Department of Education and support our teachers to help them teach best. So I'll be playing a video that DepEd prepared. So including a team song for the DepEd Matatag, they also prepared one. So I'll be playing the DepEd Matatag theme song to serve as a fitting conclusion to our talk for this morning.
Ang tanging may pamamaan ako'y edukasyong Pilipino. Tinuturong galing at talino para maabot ang pangarap mo. Ang tanging handog ko sa'yo'y edukasyong Pilipino. Diskarteng mula sa puso, mamamangha ang mundo. Matatag na mga guro, matatag sa mga pagsubok, matatag na mga mag-aaral, matatag na talino'y umiiral. Hinaharap ang hirap, walang takot sumugod, humahanap ng solusyon, ipaglaban ang edukasyon.
Thank you very much for listening to my presentation, Eric. I am giving it back to you.